All right, welcome to our Canva Space workshop for today. Super excited to have everyone here. The program we're going to run through with you today is actually something we deliver to all of our internal Canva teams to help them really maximize their communication skills and thrive the best we can in this new environment we are in. Really excited to share some of our best practices with you to really understand what you can do to make your communication in the virtual environment as strong as we can. All right, so we think about communicating well, we want to maximize the effectiveness of our communication. Now, it is a really important tool that we all need to master. So we can get some of these best practices into place that should really help you thrive in the way you connect with people in the online environment. Big hello from me. My name is Dan. I'm part of our Canva University team here in our Sydney office. So as part of that work, we actually support all the employees of Canva, helping them to build the skills they need to really do the best work of their lives. So when the world kind of shifted in how things happened this time, well, gosh, not this time last year, last Feb, we realized we needed to think of how can we set our teams up for success now that we won't be in the office as much as we traditionally would be. And communication was a really big part of that. So I'd love to hear from you all. What are some of your challenges when you are communicating? What do you find challenging about that? Pop those in the chat and we'll take a peek. Lack of confidence. Yeah, that is a big one. All right, definitely. Craig, you were right. Cultural differences. When you are working in companies that spread across different countries, it is hard to nail that because we all do have our own kind of preferences for how we engage with each other. Tone is always an interesting one, making sure you nail that and get that down pat. Engaging people, big part of it. Language, yeah, all right. One thing in terms of language I always recommend, this is going to sound a little bit maybe silly in tech, but we call it global local English. So trying to make sure the words we use are as common as we can make them to get the point across in what we are doing. So what we're going to show you today, we want you to walk away understanding what the best practice skills are for virtual communication. Going to give you some strategies to build relationships. Right? Communication is not just about sharing a message, it's about building trust and building relationships with people, which is really important. And also talking a bit about productivity and how to really manage your communication and your setup for that in a remote environment to make sure that you're not overwhelmed and that you're really getting the most out of each situation. So what do you think are the benefits of being an effective communicator? What would you say are the really beneficial skills? Ooh, love that one. Fast transaction, correct. If we can be clear communicators, we can cut time out. We can actually become more efficient in our interactions because we're clear, the message gets across, everything is understood, and we can build alignment 100% well done. Less misunderstanding, of course, so important. I'm not sure if you have ever been working on something with someone and the message kind of gets lost halfway and then you have to go back and try and redo and fix things up. Authenticity, brilliant. Relationship building, of course, right? All these really, really good things that effective communication enables for us. So one thing that effective communicators do is really build trust and engagement with the people that they are either working with, if we're thinking professionally, or the people you have relationships with in your private life. So people understand that when you communicate clearly, they know what you're meaning, you're authentic in what you're saying, and they can trust that what you are sharing is excellent. Now, good communicators are really, really strong at building feedback environments. So building situations where there is feedback given, both good and also could be constructive if things aren't going well. And it's a really important skill to have that because that also enables you and that person to grow that relationship you have, but also work on your skills and find any of those kind of touch points in the way you do things that might not be best for those around you. Now, someone said short and sharp and keeping things punchy and fast transactions. Effective communication does that, right? It increases our productivity because we are not spending time discussing or talking or connecting about things that don't land the right way. So we can really build our skills at rallying and getting people engaged and making sure the time we use with people is the most effective use of that. And then lucky last, building morale and relationships, all right? To build connection and build trust, you have to be really good at expressing what you're trying to express, all right? And not just that, a good communicator, I should say, has to be able to understand the other person. So we're going to talk a little bit later around what is a vibe we're getting in certain situations and how do we best respond to that to make those conversations, those interactions really, really positive. So in terms of how we communicate with each other, we tend to focus a lot on the words we're going to say when we communicate. But the message you are sending, communication is about sharing a message, not just a chunk of words, is actually a combination of how we say things, how we look when we say things, and how we act, as well as those words that we are sharing. So regardless if you're thinking about virtual situations or in person, good and confident interpersonal skills are made of both verbal, the words we speak, but also nonverbal communication. So we really have to think about how we read each other's signs, how we listen actively, and how we respond based on the delivery of communication. And all of that will lead up to that goal of how we best understand each other and encourage really healthy dialogue and really healthy relationships. So let's take a look at some of the key components for virtual communication and those skills that we can work on to really increase the effectiveness of our virtual communication. So the 5 essential skills I want to cover for you today. First up, we have body language. Then we have tone of voice. We're going to look at something I love. Don't mock me, but I think it's great. It's part of my role, active listening. We're going to look at that building of rapport and that relationship setting, and also setting norms that work for you and the people you are connecting with. Let's jump straight into skill number 1, and that is our body language. So how important is body language when we communicate? What are your thoughts on that? How important is it? I'll give you a hint. If I'm talking about it in this session, probably pretty important, right? It does show interest. It's extremely important. 80% maybe, yeah. Love this one because it's the first thing we see, and that is so, so true. All right, when we think about how we get information from the world, the quickest thing we do is collect data with our eyes. So the things we see are what helps us really build those kind of understandings and those, I don't want to say judgments, but our first impressions and our first kind of data is what we see and how we understand that. So there's some pretty insane statistics that actually show how a message is shared between people during communication. Some of the breakdown, right? You can see here on the right, 55% of the message, remember, not just the words, but the message of what you're sharing actually comes from that nonverbal communication. 38% of the message comes through your tone or your voice inflection. And really only 7% of that deep messaging comes from the words we use. So it's really interesting to think about then how important our bodies are and our nonverbal communication is, particularly when we find ourselves now in a little box, all right? We don't have all those cues we can read because we can't see a lot of a person's body. We basically have shoulders, heads, faces, our facial expression. And if you're like me and my jazz hands, I do use my hands a bit to communicate. So if you're someone who is a bit of a hand speaker, make sure your hands somewhere up where they are visible. So I wanted to have a look at some body language that you may have seen before, and I want to see if you can kind of describe what kind of message you are getting from that body language. So what do you think is wrong here? What could be wrong with this body language? Oh yeah, working on something else, no eye contact for sure, all right? If people are not looking at you when you're speaking, what kind of vibe does that give off? So take a peek at what you can see in this one now. All right, what kind of body language is this person suggesting? Maybe tired, correct? It could be. Yeah, that's a good one. Not happy for sure. All right, looking at that face. Worried, tense, too close to the screen. Yeah, definitely. All right. So some really interesting things to think about. I know someone earlier talked about how cultural cross differences can be really sometimes hard to navigate. There are certain, cultures in the world where if you're looking down at someone, it can suggest you're kind of judging them or talking down to them and create a negative, really negative kind of vibe in that situation. Just consciously remind yourself to have a bit of a smile, all right? Because we read, like we said before, we've only got this tiny box of vision of us. So we have to make sure we're really using it in the best way that we can. All right, now this is a favorite of mine. I would never do this on a one-to-one with my manager, ever. What do you think you're learning from this one? What's the message? Maybe judgy, could be. Halloween themed, yes, Craig, a homemade ghost story. Lighting, not super professional, all these things, all right. So Blair Witch, oh, wow, haven't heard that one before. Yes, okay. I gotta add that to my notes. Thanks, Kasha. So when we think about where we set ourselves up to take any kind of call, just thinking about what you're showing, all right? When you are on a call with someone, the way you hold yourself, 55% of that message you're sharing comes from the way you're holding yourself. So I always caveat this with, if it's someone you're having a call with that you know really well, have a good relationship with, okay, a bit more cash. I definitely take some Zoom calls from the couch sometimes if it's just a meeting with someone I know really well. If it's someone you don't know very well and don't have a relationship with, make sure you are coming in strong and setting yourself up the best way you can. Because what we do too, and it is, I think it's the term psychosomatic, I think they say, but the way you hold yourself actually kind of engages your brain in a different way, all right? So if you are feeling a bit down and you're just laying on the couch, kind of chatting away, won't feel as great. And then we can fix it up by making sure we're at our desk or in a space where we feel good. And not to sound vapid, but your presentation is so important, all right? So making sure you think through whenever you are having a work call, remembering that there's a lot of people with eyes on you through that camera. So trying to make your best impression there. Now, top tips of body language. Number one, with eye contact, I get asked this all the time. How much eye contact is too much? 4 to 5 seconds of eye contact at a time is spot on, all right? Then you can look away. All of us have our own little quirks and things we do to break eye contact. Look away for a second and then look back at the person you're speaking to. The reason I say this is because if you are just sitting there staring at someone's face, can put them off a little bit, right? It can feel a bit threatening, but also just a bit kooky and weird. So making sure you take your natural breaks, do your thing, and then look back when you've had a quick look away. And number two is posture, all right? Posture is really important. Just like in the real world, if you want someone to feel more engagement with you, gently leaning forward is great, all right? A gentle lean forward brings your space a little bit closer together and makes you feel more connected. But we can do this too online, all right? So you can't really see now because you can only see my shoulders, but I am leaning forward towards my camera just slightly to start trying to emulate as much as we can the great communication skills we have in the real world, but transferring them over in to this virtual setup. So really, really important that we can try that. Now, body position, anytime you are on a Zoom call, all right? Shoulders, head, try and have this much of yourself visible because those 55% nonverbal cues that we need are so restricted. So really setting yourself up there is the best way possible. And then with facial expression, keep it relaxed, all right? Keep it relaxed. Also, a small little look, like a small little smile, I should say, on your face will really help you out in making a better connection with the people and what is going on there. Lee, do we have any questions in the chat box that I need to handle after this?
No, I think we are all good for now.
That's great. Well, let's jump into our next skill then. And this one is tone of voice. So our tone of voice is really, really important. All right, we saw earlier some stats around that. But if your tone of voice doesn't match the words you're saying, it kind of gets hard to really understand the message that you are sharing there. So what I'm going to do, done a little bit of I say fun, I love learning, but what we're going to do, repeat about facial expression. Oh, sure. Small smile, all right? Just gentle, really, really small smile. Doesn't have to be like a big kind of cheesy grin, but just a small upturned smile, Kadari, helps to show, firstly, confidence in what you're doing, but also makes people respond and engage better with you, all right? So it doesn't have to be a big like Hollywood smile, no way, but just a small kind of natural one is really, really good. So in terms of tone of voice, let's play a little game. All right, so I'm going to say a message to you, and I want you to tell me what's the mood you're getting from that. So here we go. Cue scene. It is really good to be here with you all today. I am so happy. Robotic, bored, yeah. Sarcastic, spot, fakey, yeah. All right. when we listen to voices like that, we each kind of pull different meaning from it, all right? Which is why our voice inflection is so important. Because if you are speaking in a way that someone interprets differently, then they're going to get part of that message wrong, all right? So it's all about setting yourself up to have the most successful. It's never going to be perfect. Don't worry about that. But you're never going to have the most kind of perfect communication. What we need to do is maximize how well people can understand us. So some tips for using your voice effectively. And these ones are really, really important. First up, speak with a clear and stable tone. All right. It's not about talking monotonously, but if we go too fast and then too slow and then too crazy and too low, it can get a bit confusing. All right. So making sure clear and stable and confident will really help people understand what you're trying to communicate. Number two, and this one goes out to any native English speaker who was born in Australia. All right. And that's a very specific kind of audience, but there is something we tend to do, and we put an inflection at the end of our sentence. And every time we do that, we go up at the end. What happens is our statement becomes a question. And that can become really confusing, all right? It can become really, really confusing for people, particularly if you are in a situation where you are trying to rally your team, or you're trying to get a project across the line or get buy-in, all right? We have to make sure we're not letting that inflection kind of derail what we're trying to share there. So that one's really important. Number three is projecting your voice and using expression, all right? Particularly in Zoom land. So I'm not sure if you've all heard of the idea of Zoom fatigue, but I spend a lot of my day running training on Zoom, and people sitting on the other side of Zoom can get quite tired of it, all right? So making sure that when we are speaking, particularly in a virtual world, we use engaging expression to try and keep people focused. Because in a normal world, it's easy to kind of tune out. When you're stuck in front of your laptop all day talking through that, even easier. All right. So making sure we do that to keep them engaged. And lastly, looking at attention to tempo and intonation. All right. We don't want to sound monotonous because that will bore people and they might disengage. So making sure it's bubbly, it's bright, and it matches what we want them to think about as we are communicating. Oh, up to my favorite skill. All right. This is my favorite thing to talk about. I love this. Active listening. So what I would love you to do is jump in the chat box and rate your listening skills from 1 to 5. All right. 1 is no bueno. 5 is excellent. All right. So not good being 1, really good being 5. How would you rate yourself? Oh, 4, jealous. Average 3. Yeah, that's a vibe. 3, 2.5, 2s, 3s, 4s, all these numbers coming in. Yeah. All right. Listening is difficult. And there's actually science behind it. So the reason we find proper listening, really deep listening, a challenge is that on average, a human can say approximately 125 words per minute. That's how many we can make with our mouth, shoot those thoughts out as spoken word. However, our brain can actively process approximately 450 words per minute. So less than a third of our processing capacity, roughly, is being used when we are listening. So we can hear words, but we have 2/3 of our brain sitting there not doing much. So what we need to do is start to build skills that will help us really focus on listening and not get distracted, all right? Because I know we've all had times where you're having a conversation, next minute we're thinking about what's for dinner, or what are we gonna watch on TV tonight? What's the next email I have to send, all right? Really, really easy to do, but we can improve, all right? We can get better. The real focus of active listening is about listening to understand, not to respond. So sometimes if we're in a conversation, someone says something, we're already thinking, what am I going to say back in response to that? Sometimes we do that because it's fast and we might need to ask and answer questions. But if we're having a proper conversation where we need to deeply understand, we're not focusing on their true message there. All right, probably not paying as much attention to we should as what their voice is telling us, what body language is telling us, and what they're really trying to express. So what we want to do is get strategies in place to help us listen actively. So 5 ways that we can show active listening: smile, eye contact, posture, eliminate distractions, and mirroring. So let's see how well you actively listened as I shared those tips. All right. into the chat box. See if you can type out all 5 of those listening tips. Let's have a go. If you don't remember, don't worry. All right, this isn't meant to put you in a really terrible spot. All right, we have no judgment here. I've just told you listening is incredibly difficult. All right, so it's fine that we are not remembering all of them. Again, they're all popping up though. Yeah, we've got smile, posture, mirroring, excellent. Eliminate distractions, brilliant. Eye contact, awesome. All right, so we got them. We did. Well done. The reason we have to really focus on our active listening though is because even now in a session like this, where we're trying to train and learn, we don't always have the ability to fully focus because of our brain and how quickly it can work, and how much slower we actually speak words and the brain can process them. So I wanted to share some skills that I've picked up throughout my career and my professional life, starting from when I was a kindergarten teacher. So listening there, oof, that's a tough one, up till now working with adults at Canva. So one thing we can do to listen really well is this skill called playback. So what you're doing is you've listened to someone talk to you, they're finished, but just playing back what we heard to show that we understood it, right? Someone mentioned earlier, communication can be tough when we have misunderstanding. This is how we start to address misunderstanding. We actually confirm what the person's saying and making sure that we have understood that and interpreted that in the correct way. Yeah, great point, Craig. It does. It prevents judgment because you're just responding as they're speaking. You're listening carefully to what they're saying. And then instead of asking more questions or coming back with something different, you are just showing that you've heard them and use one of these statements to do that. All right. These are just some example statements. You don't have to obviously use this. You talk and be as natural as you can and what feels comfortable for you. But we can use these ones to just prompt you if you're not sure. All right. So that's a really good one. And it's a good way of making us focus. Remember, we're trying to ensure our brain stays focused on the conversation and not on dinner or TV later on. All right. That's what we're really trying hard to do here. The next part of active listening, a little bit more of a trickier skill, is called split tracking. So sometimes you are having a conversation with someone and they might start to raise a few different things, okay, in that conversation. And you want to make sure that you're catching them and really hearing them out. So I've got an example statement up here and it says, the goal has changed twice this week and the stakeholders' expectation is not clear. All right, that's an example of what could happen. How you would then do this is say, here's the 2 issues I've heard. So you could say, so it sounds like the goal has changed twice and the expectation is not clear. It's again like playing it back a little bit, but you're breaking it down a little bit more. And then what you would do is actually ask the person who shared with you what they want to discuss first. All right. You're showing them that you've listened, you're understanding, and then giving them the agency to choose which direction that conversation is going to take. And this is a really, really good one to help you build that active listening and get that focus. I will say though, active listening is not something you will be doing 100% of your day. No way. Too much tired, it's too exhausting, all right? You can't do it. It would make you a very, very sleepy and brain dead person if you were trying to do this all the time. But in those situations, that important meeting, that really important conversation, you switch on those active listening skills to make sure you're getting the right information out of that situation. So really conscious of that is an important part. Skill number 4, all right, thinking about building rapport, building relationships. So it is really, really challenging to build trust and credibility and respect each other and build relationships when we don't have that face-to-face experience. So if you are someone who is working maybe in a role where you have colleagues in different parts of the world or different parts of the country that you don't normally see, it's still really important that we have ways of getting that trust and building that rapport and establishing a relationship with them. So I'm going to see, before I let you know some of my top tips, how have you worked to establish trust and build relationships since we moved into this virtual realm of communication, this virtual world? What are some of your thoughts? Being honest, yeah, asking questions, excellent. Showing interest, being invested, that's a really good way of doing it. What other things might we do? One-to-one is great, yeah. Instead of doing big group meetings, actually spending time one-on-one and doing that. Starting by talking off topic is something we can also do, most definitely. Yeah, checking in, excellent. Compliment, sharing feedback. Yes, understanding what people need is a really good part of this too. Yeah, great. Louis, that's a great shout. Everyone's social, reacting, all right, encouraging, all really, really good stuff, all right? So what we just want to do is try and transfer as much of those things we would do normally in our lives, but into a way that works via our computers. So some of the best things that have worked for us here at Canva and the teams we work with, first up is having an agenda. All right, it's really, really important when you're building rapport and relationships, because what our brain does is it looks for different domains of emotional intelligence and how it responds to those things. So there's a great book by a lovely person called David Rock. He's kind of considered the grandfather of emotional intelligence or emotional quotient. And what he talks about in this thing called the SCARF model is those different things that our brain clings to and we thrive off, or also we don't like if they're negative. And one of the key parts of that is this idea of certainty. So we want to know what's happening, what might come next, how we can handle that. So when you put an agenda in your meeting, for every meeting if you can, so people know what to expect, they start to feel a stronger connection to you and a better relationship because you're giving them that level of certainty. All right. If you go a bit off topic on your agenda, okay, that's fine. All right. We don't have to stress about that. But making sure we have something there that we can stick to and hold ourselves accountable to in that conversation to make our person that we're working with feel trusted and feel like we can get on really, really well. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, anything you can do to create those real life opportunities, maybe lunch, maybe a morning chat. Right? So my team do something every day where we get our coffees, 9 till 9:15. We just have a coffee chat. All right. We all log in. We don't have to talk about work. It's not about work. It's just about connecting and, checking in on each other. How you going? What's happening? And doing it in that way. That's a really good way of creating those opportunities to bring normal in-person moments into the virtual world. And number three, so when you are working from home, maybe if you're doing that or working remote, don't be scared about life interruptions. All right. If you're someone with a child and the child wants to walk everyone to camera, people love that. People really want to be able to enjoy that and experience that because it lets them know a little bit about you. All right. I mean, you don't have to share everything. I'm not saying that. But if you're sharing little bits of yourself, it's giving people a really authentic view and a really honest view at what's happening in your world. So one thing that is great is to have a Zoom background. You can't see it, but my kitchen is very messy and I haven't cleaned it today. That's what a Zoom background is great for. But it's also okay to have those little things that pop up and talk about them. So you don't have to pretend like, surprise something happened. Have a chat about it. Be comfortable if you feel that way with the people you're partnering with, and you can talk to them and share little bits like that. Now, this last one, really important for work, right? If you're talking to someone you know really well in your personal life, maybe not so much, but for work, anytime you're having a virtual conversation, have your video on. I know sometimes it can feel a bit uncomfortable. Maybe we're just not in the mood, not feeling our prettiest, freshest self. That's fine, all right? But try as much as you can to have that video, because what happens is people are reading your face and that helps them foster a connection, all right? If people can see someone's face and hear their voice, you build rapport faster and relationships faster than if someone is just hearing your voice all the time. If you do find you have to take a call and you can't have your camera on for a reason, just let people know, right? We're not saying you can't do it. It's totally fine. But just say, hey, look, situation X, Y, Z, I'm not going to turn my camera on. Is that cool? All right. Just so they know what's going on and, they understand how to kind of best connect with you. And then clicking onto our last skill. This is a really important one. Everyone around the world has, had a very, very stressful time these past almost 2 years now. In this kind of the unknown we've all been living in. But what is really, really challenging is how many different virtual communication channels there are. All right. There are infinite amounts. We're thinking about work. We have Slack, Zoom, email, phone calls, Trello boards, Jira, all these different kind of things. If we're thinking about our personal life, We have video calls, we might be Zooming still, text, social media, all these different channels. It can get really overwhelming to make sure that you still feel like your time is being used well, but that you haven't cut off communication with people. So what is your preferred method of communication? And I'd love to hear the why. It is literally insane. I know it's so hard to make sense and to keep yourself focused when there is information coming at you from every direction. So you like Messenger and email? That's great, love. Is there a reason you like those? Face-to-face, yeah, definitely. I'm a face-to-face person too. Zoom's okay, but much prefer having that face-to-face connection. For me, face-to-face is good because I do look for all those verbal and non-verbal cues. It's really hard, really important for me in how I understand messaging is looking at the way people are holding themselves, for sure. Email for Olivia, okay, great. Face-to-face is best, yeah. Yeah, no, well, hopefully one day, all of us soon will get to go back to work and see the people we haven't seen for a very long time in the flesh. So really important. I do want you to remember though, and this goes for work and for your personal life, to make sure that you feel productive, it is a-okay to set some communication boundaries, right? We don't have to be available, every minute of every day, just because someone wants to get a message in front of us or something like that. We've got to set up some boundaries to make sure that your calendar, your day, that is your time. You need to guard that with your life, all right? People are always going to want to jump on there and get stuff, but you need to make sure you're setting yourself up to really feel productive and thrive. And that way allow yourself to be achieving what you're trying to achieve, as well as communicating. So I use this. It's something I started using with my team here at Canva. And that is actually having a communication norm, just a doc. We just made ours in our Canva, just a presentation page. But these are the three kind of key comms platforms I see myself coming across each day in the work I do. And I was finding though that people were using them in different ways. So it was kind of getting confusing and it really wasn't setting me up for success. I was having Slack, which is that messenger. I was getting these big lengthy updates, things that I needed to read and check and review. And for me, I was losing stuff. Slack is crazy. I think I have like 50 channels on Slack, so I get a lot of information there. So what I tried to do is really think for me, what is going to make me feel like I'm using my time well, I have time to do what I need to do, but also I'm not missing things and I'm getting all the right details. So it's really simple. Just think about the channels you use and then think about what's going to work best for you. You can see here my example, like quick questions on Slack. Hey, QQ, can you tell me this? Yes, I can. Off we go. I use Slack for chat and banter. I am a very extroverted person, so working alone at home is not my favorite thing. So it's great to at least have, stuff happening and connection to people. But also updates I find really useful on Slack. So updates are great there. If I need to see something, I can check in on that channel, know where it's at, and be able to find that. All right. So really try and be more productive and efficient with my time by having that great communication. Email stuff I use for actioning. If you need me to do something, drop it in an email, because that is almost like my to-do list, that email inbox, and make sure that things come in. I use the 4 Ds. Do, delegate, defer, and delete when I look at my inbox. I'm not sure if you've heard of those before. So when you think about emails, if it's something I can do in less than 5 minutes, I do it. If it's something that is just nothing to do with me and I don't want it, I delete. If it's something that should be given to someone else, I flick it off to them by deferring. And then what was my 4th day? I've not even said it. Do, delete, defer, delegate. Sorry, delegate, all right? So making sure the right information gets to the right people. And if it's something I need to do, but it doesn't need to be done right now, I've put a little boomerang. I don't know if you heard boomerang, that's a Gmail kind of thing, but you can get emails to come back to you at a prescribed time. So if you're busy and something important comes up, I'm like, come back to me at 2 p.m. and it will fly back to the top of my inbox. And so I know to action that now. Also things I really can't handle is the big chunks and presentation of our Slack messenger. So critical information, long bits, drop it in an email for me. And that's what's going to help me, A, best understand, but B, also best respond to whatever it is that people need. And lastly, Zoom calls. I said before agenda, I will not take a Zoom call unless I know what is going on, what is going to happen in that call really, really clearly. And also too, one thing that I've learned through my years is if you are running a meeting with people, make sure any key questions or key talking points are shared in advance, because we tend to have two types of people who can speak to think, like me, ask me a question, I can babble away until an answer comes out. Others think to speak. So they want to process, think through their response, and then come back. So if you are dropping really big questions at people in a meeting they weren't expecting, you're actually going to find some people cannot engage. They actually cannot respond to you in the way they need to at that point in time because they haven't had time to think that through. So that's a really, really huge tip for me. Any meeting, key questions, key points, that these people come prepared. You're wasting no time because everyone knows what to do. They've thought ahead. You can really get into stuff. And it also makes it much more fairer for everyone. We count as big questions. Anything could be a big question. You want to talk to me like, what could a goal be? If someone said that, we actually had a team the other day, my team, and someone's like, what are our goals for the next quarter or season? And we all just kind of sat there because, it's something that takes a bit of thought and a bit of time. All right. So anything that involves a little bit of thinking, if someone needs to think through stuff for 5-10 minutes, definitely get that stuff out to let them, have time in advance to prepare that. Angelica, you put a question here. Can you please explain defer versus delegate? Sorry, yes, I can. Delegate, give it to someone else. We can't always do that, but when we can, make sure that happens, right? If it's not something you need to do and someone else can do it, delegate it off to them. Defer is when it's something you need to do, but you don't have to do it right away. So if I got a big an action at 9 a.m. and it wasn't due until the next day, I would put my boomerang on and say, remind me of this after lunch, because that way I can still do the work I need to do and it will still get done, but I don't have to do it right now. Because what we don't like for emails is when you're sitting there constantly and you burn through so much time. You say constant emails, what am I doing? More are coming in, actually trying to clear what you've already got. So it's just a way of being really productive with that inbox. And whoa, all right. I think I can take a big breath. That's right, Angelica. Do we have any questions, Leah, that I haven't clicked on? Because I haven't reopened that box, I'm sorry.
No, I think you've covered everything.
It's awesome. Well, that is really good. So I would love to hear if you are brave enough. What do you think? What are those skills, those tips will you take from today and actually start to use in how you communicate? Pop those in the chat for me too. Don't forget, we will send this information out to you. So you'll have this resource so you don't have to remember it right about now. Yes, be an active listener. Give yourself a pat on the back. That is honestly one of the most successful things you can do as a communicator, because it means that you're really hearing, you're really understanding, and that the way you're responding is accurate and efficient and helping stuff get done. Camera on is excellent. Agenda, great. Use those 4Ds. Yeah, so when you talk fast, you can probably hear I sometimes accidentally talk a little bit too fast. Just about taking a breath, all right? You probably noticed too, I always have, oh, you can't see it with Zoom. I have a glass of water next to me. Whenever I am presenting, I make sure that every 5 minutes I stop and have a sip of that water, because that's like my little cue, like, whoop, take a breath, slow yourself down, and then move on, all right? So always have those little prompts for yourself, little things you can do to help you out. Body language, really important. Yeah, really, really good. I really recommend thinking about those communication norms for yourself. All right. Think about what will work for me. And then how can you share that with the people you work with? So it really does free up your time. What we want to do is make sure when we communicate, it works for both of us. All right. If I'm talking to someone who doesn't read emails, I'm not going to read emails and send them emails. All right. I'm going to jump on a call with them because that's what they need. So we work together to really understand what is going on. So some key takeaways for you. Never forget your eye contact, all right? Never forget eye contact is so important and really, really strong way of building trust and being a good human, all right? Eye contact helps people really connect with you and is so important. Use your body language as much as you can, all right? I know right now we're all kind of trapped in our little Zoom boxes or our Meet boxes, but make sure you're thinking about how am I holding myself? What is my face doing? If you know your face tends to be a little bit when you're thinking, just prompt yourself, right? We want it to be natural because people are seeing what that face does and they're interpreting that as a response into what they're sharing with you. Really think about your voice, all right? We talk a lot about rallying and getting people on board. How can your voice inspire people, all right? Usually when we communicate, we want to inspire something. We want to get people on board to a change or an idea. So being really conscious of how we do that. And lastly, if you're building relationships, particularly with your colleagues that maybe you don't know that well, just try and be yourself and allow time for small talk, all right? You don't have to be every day straight into the hard calls and just boom, boom, boom. Spend some time getting to know them, ask questions about their life, share something of yours. That would be really, really useful. And I did want to do a nice kind of reminder. I'm not sure if everyone's heard of this, but we have a Canva Design Circle Facebook group. So I think right now there's over 170,000 members, all Canva users. They're not all employed by us, don't worry. So it's not us trying to sales pitch you all the time. These are real people using Canva, and they're going to share great things with you. You'll hear about new features, tips, tricks. You can ask questions, and everyone it really is a community where everyone jumps in and helps them out there. So if you want to get involved in that, you can head to facebook.com/groups/Canva Design Circle. Other than that, what I will say is thank you very much. I hope you have taken something really helpful from today's session. Otherwise, I think that's it. Anything else, Leah? We need to share?
No, that's all. Thank you so much, Dan. There was so many good tips there. I loved it. So I hope everyone has a good rest of their day. Thank you. Bye.